White began pulling documents out of his cases as he talked. Quote, "That's how Bath, who didn't know anything about the aviation business, became one of the biggest jet aviation dealers in the country within a couple of years. Look, here's a Boeing he's leasing to the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. That's a multi-million-dollar jet. And that's how he became a representative for Sheikh Khalid bin Mahfouz, whose family controls the National Commercial Bank of Saudi Arabia." And I would note that's also how he came to be the Texas business representative for Sheikh bin Laden, the father of Osama bin Laden. That again from For the Record program number 277, which in turn accessed an excerpt from For the Record program number 186. In For the Record program number 308, we dealt with a perhaps not so astonishing move by the Bush administration, one of its earlier actions. Osama bin Laden, whose family may very well have put up a portion of the investment capital that went to found George Bush's first oil company, Osama bin Laden has been sheltered by the ultra-reactionary Islamic government of the Taliban in Afghanistan. And perhaps not so surprisingly, one of the things the Bush administration did was to channel $43 million to the Taliban. This was ostensibly to reward the Taliban for cracking down on opium trafficking. One of the questions that I have concerning this is whether perhaps, and this is obviously speculative, perhaps this was something of a reward for the Taliban for sheltering Osama bin Laden, whose acts of terrorism have been particularly damaging to the Democrats in the United States. Bin Laden's attacks on embassies in 1998 put added pressure on Bill Clinton and discredited him on the left when he responded to those, right at the time that the impeachment proceedings were gathering steam. And Osama bin Laden's forces have also been alleged to have been behind the attack on some U.S. Army Rangers in Somalia in 1993. That put the Clinton administration in early hot water with the Pentagon and with elements in this country right of center. I would also note that during the 2000 campaign, the Democrats were made to look weak on national security issues when the destroyer USS Cole was bombed with the loss of the lives of 17 American sailors. So in that context, I think the rewarding of the Taliban to the tune of $43 million at the time when they are sheltering Osama bin Laden raises more questions than it answered. Revisiting a bit of text that I dealt with originally in For the Record program number 308, miscellaneous articles and updates. This is from the Los Angeles Times of Tuesday, May 22nd of the year 2001. This is a column by Robert Scheer, the syndicated columnist for the LA Times, who's been doing some very good work. It's headlined by the LA Times, "Bush's Faustian Deal with the Taliban." It reads in part as follows, skipping down. Speaking of the $43 million, that's the message sent with the recent gift of $43 million to the Taliban rulers of Afghanistan, the most virulent anti-American violators of human rights in the world today. The gift, announced last Thursday by Secretary of State Colin Powell, in addition to other recent aid, makes the U.S. the main sponsor of the Taliban and rewards that rogue regime, unquote, for declaring that opium growing is against the will of God. So, too, by the Taliban's estimation, are most human activities, but it's the ban on drugs that catches this administration's attention. Never mind that Osama bin Laden still operates the leading anti-American terror operation from his base in Afghanistan, from which, among other crimes, he launched 2 bloody attacks on American embassies in Africa in 1998. Sadly, the Bush administration is cozying up to the Taliban regime at a time when the United Nations, at U.S. insistence, imposes sanctions on Afghanistan because the Kabul government will not turn over bin Laden. And again, during the 2000 campaign, Osama bin Laden's forces successfully attacked the destroyer USS Cole with the loss of the lives of 17 American sailors. And again, one of the questions I have concerns the possibility that perhaps the Taliban were being rewarded for continuing to shelter Osama bin Laden, who has proved quite useful to the Republicans. In For the Record program number 292, we dealt with an interesting bit of background concerning Osama bin Laden. In the original J.H. Hatfield text, it was speculated about the identity of the Sheikh bin Laden, who was represented by James R. Bath, and it was speculated that perhaps that was Osama bin Laden's father. It turns out that must have been a different member of the bin Laden family, a different Sheikh bin Laden, because bin Laden's father was killed in a plane crash in 1967. I would note, however, that the bin Laden family is very, very large, that Mohammed bin Laden, the patriarch of the family, was very, very prolific. And beyond that, I would note that bin Laden's father, Mohammed Awad bin Laden, was very close to the founder of Saudi Arabia and the first monarch of that country, Abdul Aziz ibn Saud. And we're going to review some information that was covered in For the Record program number 292. In that broadcast, we dealt with an article from the Financial Times from the weekend of April 14th and April 15th of the year 2001. This is an article by Robin Allen and Carola Hoyos, H-O-Y-O-S. It's headlined, Millionaire, Terrorist, Fugitive. And it talks about Osama bin Laden, and in describing the genesis of the bin Laden family, the authors write as follows. Bin Laden's father, Mohammed Awad bin Laden, emigrated from southern Yemen's Hadramawt Valley in the 1920s to Saudi Arabia, where he became a close friend of the country's founder and first monarch, Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, whose example he followed by taking almost as many wives as the king. Like the king, Mohammed's many children consolidated his strategic alliances through extended families. Osama bin Laden would later take a page out of that same book by marrying one of his daughters to the Taliban leader, Mullah Muhammad Omar. Thanks in part to Mohammed's relationship with the king, the family construction company prospered. The group, the Bin Laden Organization, which was founded in 1935 and became synonymous with Saudi Arabia's oil-fed development, has an annual turnover of billions of dollars and employs 35,000 people with offices throughout the world, including the Americas. And I would remind listeners parenthetically that the Texas business representative for the bin Laden family was the aforementioned James R. Bath. Continuing. Its first headline-grabbing success came in 1961, 6 years before Mohammed bin Laden died in a light aircraft accident in the U.S. when it built the Mecca-Taif Mountain Road in Saudi Arabia's western province. Again, note that bin Laden's father died in 1967, so the member of the bin Laden family that was alluded to as being tied to James R. Bath, a business representative in Texas for the bin Laden family, was undoubtedly one of Osama's brothers. More about bin Laden from this same Financial Times article. One of bin Laden's earliest actions was arguably one of his most successful. U.S. prosecutors claim that Al-Qaeda, the base, the network he co-founded in Afghanistan, allegedly to carry out terrorist attacks, trained those who ambushed and killed 18 U.S. servicemen stationed in Somalia in 1993. And again, we've dealt with we first accessed this story in For the Record program number 292. In connection with the association, and it was a very, very close one, between Mohammed bin Laden, Osama bin Laden's father, and King Ibn Saud of Saudi Arabia, the founder of Saudi Arabia, we also excerpted a text that I used many times on this program. That book is called The Secret War Against the Jews, co-authored by John Loftus and Mark Ahrens, published in hardcover and softcover by the St. Martin's Press, copyright 1994. And in For the Record program number 292 and in The Secret War Against the Jews, the relationship between King Ibn Saud, a British fascist named St. John, nicknamed Jack Philby, and Alan Dulles and the Third Reich was detailed, and we're going to touch on that relationship here. I would note in that context that Alan Dulles was also very, very close to the Bush family and helped to engage in some of the corporate camouflaging of some of the Bush companies that were allied with the Third Reich and were confiscated by the alien property custodian in World War II as being Nazi front companies. We've dealt with that connection in many broadcasts. In The Secret War Against the Jews, the authors write, Jack Philby has become an obscure footnote to the history of the Cold War, but his legacy was far from minor. He is one of the lesser-known but most influential persons in the modern history of the Middle East, the renegade British intelligence agent who plucked an obscure terrorist out of the desert and helped to make him the king of Saudi Arabia. King Ibn Saud was very much his creation. Philby stole the information from British intelligence files that engineered Saudi control over the holiest shrines of the Muslim world. Jack Philby and Ibn Saud betrayed the British Empire and made the American oil companies economic masters of the region. The man who helped them to do it was Allen Dulles, an American spy who had befriended Philby while he was coordinating American intelligence gathering in the Middle East in the first half of the 1920s. Between them, these three men built the very foundations of the modern Middle East. They were the architects of the oil weapon, the instigators of war, the manipulators of history. More important, Philby's and Ibn Saud's political and philosophical allegiance was to Nazi Germany, while much of Dulles's profits came from the same source. And that, once again, was excerpted from For the Record program number 315 from July 22nd of the year 2001. Note the untimely death of J.H. Hatfield, the author of the book that linked BCCI, James R. Bath, who put forth a portion of the venture capital to start Arbusto Energy, and the family of Osama bin Laden. Note also the $43 million payoff that was made to the Taliban. Note that Mohammed bin Laden, Osama bin Laden's father, was very close to King Ibn Saud, who in turn was very close to, among other elements, the Third Reich, and Allen Dulles. Allen Dulles, in turn, was the corporate lawyer who arranged the holding companies to mask the Bush companies that were confiscated by the alien property custodian as Nazi front companies in the Second World War. So Allen Dulles and the Third Reich, combining elements that link the world of Ibn Saud and Osama bin Laden with the world of the Bush family. Of course, petroleum wealth is also another uniting factor. And of course, do not forget that Osama bin Laden received his military training courtesy of the CIA during the anti-Soviet war in Afghanistan. So as different as Bush and bin Laden may appear to be, there are more than a few elements connecting them, and they all are, in my opinion, elements of what I call the underground Reich. We're going to go into this this very disturbing concatenation in For the Record program number 326. This, however, concludes For the Record program number 325, Side B. Before I formally wrap the program up, let me remind you that the various programs that I've done over the years are available from Spitfire, P.O. Box 1179, Ben Lomond, California, 95005. Email mail, M-A-I-L, at spitfirelist.com. Sister station WFMU-FM in Jersey City, New Jersey has been compiling the For the Record programs on Real Audio. More recent programs are streaming on WFMU.org/Dave Emory, D-A-V-E-E-M-O-R-Y. Older programs are available for download on a longer URL that is linked to both the Spitfire website at spitfirelist.com and also the other WFMU website. By the way, all of the programs dealing with the Bush-Bin Laden connection are either streaming or available for download. This concludes Side 2 of For the Record program number 325, The Past as Prologue, Eve of Destruction. This is being recorded on September 16th of the year 2001. My name's Dave Emory. Thanks for listening.